All right, very excited to have 2016 World Series champion Ben Zobrist back with us. We should just call you friend of the show now.
Yeah, I definitely
reoccurring guest.
Huh? Yeah, I mean that's why I'm back here with you guys. I had so much fun the first time. Why not?
We came to your house. We came to Nashville baseball winter meetings. We're all waiting for stuff to happen. Shohei Ohtani, people want to talk about where he's going to go, and the Cubs are trying to make moves. What do you remember about your time in free agency and what the experience is like?
Well, yeah, it was definitely very crazy. I mean, I came off the World Series victory with Kansas City at the time, and it starts just a few days after the World Series is over, right, where you start getting calls and start talking to various GMs and trying to figure out what the offers are potentially out there. And I was lucky enough that I had several teams that were interested coming out of free agency. We had some amazing players that free agent year, and it seemed for whatever reason that there was talk about a lot of teams very kind of waiting to figure out what I was going to do, because then I could fit into different pieces, and then they could get their big pitcher or their big other position player that was on the market, which is kind of weird being a utility guy. I'm not as valuable, not as big of a contract, but they were kind of like, if we can get him, then we can piece together these other things. So it was very, very crazy to feel like I was a guy that many teams wanted at the time.
What was, when you were a free agent, are a couple things that really you wanted, like you really wanted to see in teams and what they were presenting?
Well, of course, even after winning in Kansas City, you want to see that the team is on the upswing, because you don't want to go to a team and just get paid whatever your max free agent contract ability is, just to go to a team and lose. That's never fun for a competitor. And so you want to see that this team has a plan. So even if they had a terrible year that year, they're going, here's where we're at. Here's what we got in the minor leagues. These guys are going to be coming up. It's going to take a couple years for us to get there. I believe at the time the Braves were in that situation where they were a pretty, they were kind of in a tough spot as an organization, had been in last place. Now look at them, right? They've been amazing the last several years, but at the time they were struggling. And I remember they even came to Nashville, sat in my living room and talked to me about the organization. Yes, it's going to take a couple years. We're not going to be probably good this next year, or even maybe the second year, but by the third year contract, we believe we're going to win, and we have a chance at winning it all. It's kind of like we're still in development stage. And then you have others that are like, we're ready right now. We're making trades. This is, we need this to happen ASAP. And ultimately I decided there's a mix. You want to also see, how am I going to fit as a veteran? You're looking for, how am I going to fit with this particular team? Looking at their young guys, where are they at in their career? Their older guys, is there a position player fit for me here? Where it's not just, do I fit on the field in the lineup, but it's, do I fit with this particular makeup of this team? And I think you start knowing guys around the league too, after you've been in it a while. And I just felt like, obviously I had Joe Madden at the time was the manager of Chicago, and Dave Martinez was the bench coach. And I knew those guys from Tampa Bay. So it was kind of like, from a coaching standpoint, I trust them. At that point, it was looking at, man, they got Rizzo, they got Chris Bryant, they got Javi Baez, they got Addison Russell, they got John Lester, they got David Ross. I mean, they had all these guys. John Lackey was coming on board, Jason Hayward. So I was like, this is going to be a very good team. And if any time, that the final factor that really kicked it over the edge for me is hometown state, Illinois, but also it was, this thing is so historic. It hasn't been done for so long that if we were to be able to make it happen in the next 4 years, I'm like, to be a part of that team would be the penultimate championship to go win.
With Ohtani, there's all these rumors out there, and you mentioned, you don't want to just go to the place where you can get the max contract and lose, but like all these rumors we've heard about Ohtani, he wants to stay on the West Coast because he's comfortable out there. And, now we're hearing about Toronto because he likes Toronto. Like, how much really goes into really making that decision outside of, you mentioned, being Illinois, coming back to your home state, sure, the 108-year curse that sure was, all these little things. Like, when it comes down to it, right before you sign that dotted line, like, what was the one big thing that just really convinced you that this is where I want to be?
Well, it really depends on the guy. It really does, and it depends on where they're at in their career. If they've never won, if they've been on a losing team, probably usually the top thing for that particular guy goes into like, are we going to win? Because I want to play in the playoffs and I want to play in the World Series. You know, he's used to playing in those situations, World Baseball Classics, you know, like these Olympic events, and like he wants to be on the biggest stage, right? Not just win the MVP in the regular season probably, but he's made it clear like they haven't won there, and he wants to win. So I think that's got to be probably near the very top of the list for any competitor that hasn't won. But then outside of that, it's really a personal thing. Is it your quality of life off the field? Is it the amount of travel that particular team has to do? Because you got to think about how long they're going to end up being in this particular location. You know, I knew this about Chicago too. As an older player, they are one of the least amount of flying miles of any team in the major leagues. Yeah. So that's why Chicago is such a great selling point for older players. Now, it kind of balances out a little bit with the day games because that makes it harder on an older player too, right? But I was like willing to give that up for the sake. We're not traveling near as much. It's going to be way easier than I was on the East Coast. I was on the West Coast. I knew what it was like being on different coasts travel-wise. It's kind of crazy depending on who's in your division. So that kind of stuff factors in. If they're thinking longevity-wise, they're probably thinking about those types of things. But at the end of the day, every player is a little bit different. Every person is a little different, you know, in what they really care about.
Have you ever seen free agency anything like what Shohei's having? Is like arguably one of the biggest free agents ever, record-breaking numbers potentially, and no one's hearing anything.
No, I'm not. But I also, there has never been a player like him.
It's true,
right?
Never, especially not in the modern day where there has been a hot stove, you know, market kind of a situation where any team can bid on him. So, you know, he is the Babe Ruth of the modern era for us. I mean, he does it all, and I think that any publicity that goes along with that, and the fact that people don't really know, is also like just makes it that much more climactic, right? About what's he actually going to choose, what's actually going to happen, and I expect quite a bit of rumors, but like at the end of the day, it's going to be a shock, you know, for everybody when it happens, because this guy changes the game in both sides. That's what's so crazy.
Yeah.
You're a champion forward, right? You're
Yep.
a nonprofit that you've been working on here in the last year. We talked about it when we met you back in August, and it was like you were just getting that sort of launched, and it's getting young people and coaches involved in knowing about mental health, right? Okay,
Well,
so that would help guys today too, Ben. Wouldn't it help Shohei Ohtani going through this process potentially?
Well, absolutely. I mean, he's got to learn to know himself and figure out what he needs, and he probably does from a player standpoint. I think this is where free agency is really a practice in how are you going to deal with this as a person too, because all of a sudden you're on the stage of trying to talk to all these different people that you don't know, trying to figure out what decision you're going to make, who's going to influence that decision, whether it's your agent, your family, your extended family. There's lots of people that factor into, you know, what you're hearing at this time, because you're also not playing. When you're playing, you're kind of in a cocoon of sorts where your team is what you're hearing about on a regular basis. But now he could be hearing all sorts of things from everybody. We have to be careful talking about mental health, because our organization is not a mental health organization. Right. We're more of helping people with the mental skills that actually benefit mental health long term. But we leave the mental health stuff to the practitioners. At the same time, we're connected to a lot of them, and we understand that in sports in general, it is a time where you can it can be one of the best things that helps you learn how to manage and do quality regulation in a situation that's super stressful, but it's also a situation that causes a lot of emotion and a lot of mental challenges, if you don't know how to handle it, right? So one of the things we talk about is, how do you deal with the performance pressure, right? And it's not just something that happens on the field. Yes, we perform in front of a lot of people, and there is pressure to that. I don't care what age you are, even if you're a kid playing in Little League, you're performing and your team's watching, your coaches are watching, your family, your parents are watching on the side. You feel a lot of pressure. Now take that to a major league level, and you're not just feeling pressure on the field. It's like all the cameras are in your face. You're trying to figure out what decision you're going to make. You don't want to say the wrong thing. You don't want to, make the wrong person upset. And so you're trying to almost perform in the public. And I think you really have to do some deep work to kind of figure out who am I, when all the lights shut off and I'm not doing anything on the field. And that's kind of what our organization helps not only competitors do, but caretakers and coaches do as well.
And it's going well so far.
It's going fantastic. We actually just had an event on Saturday locally here in Franklin, and it was amazing. Did some great activities with young competitors, their caretakers, and also some coaches in town. There's a Hall of Fame coach there. There's some good young competitors there, and parents that really care, right? Because at the end of the day, parents are the ones that are, you're watching. You're not just watching. You're helping your young person develop. You're supporting them as they're doing that type of thing. And the support system, especially in a free agent system, is just as important as every other person that's in your ear, right? And so you have to know and who those people you trust, and those people have to know what they're doing too, if they're going to help guide you along the way, right? So that's why we're working with takers a lot too, parents. It's not just parents. That's why we say caretakers. It's also, the people that are caring for these young athletes that really factor into how they develop.
Kind of swinging it back to baseball.
Yeah.
When you came on our show back in August, the next day you threw out the first pitch at Wrigley.
Yeah.
I believe it was the first time you'd done it retired.
It was. Yeah.
Go through that experience, because just based off the pictures, watching it on marquee from our studio and watching you go through that, that experience, it seemed like something that was long past due. It felt like, and I'm just curious how it felt being out there doing
it was such a special experience. It felt weird. I'll tell you, it felt what felt so bizarre about it is they gave me the ball. I have my jersey on. I am wearing my PF Flyers, and I'm in the dugout, and the guys are filtering out, getting ready for the game, and there's gloves, and there's the smell of pine tar, and I'm like the dirt's there. I'm like, I just feel like I could run out of the field and play right now.
You heard
that's
it.
how I was feeling.
He's making a comeback. He's making a comeback.
You heard it here first.
Zobrist comeback. You heard it.
But it was so crazy how it felt in that moment. Like your adrenaline kicks in, and you're like, that's how it felt right before you run out on the field, and you're ready to go, and you're like thinking about the opposition and what we're gonna do. So in a way, I'm like, I'm feeling a little bit of nerves again, and then Rossi comes out. He's like, man, you better keep it out of the dirt. He's like, I haven't put on a mitt for like years now at this point. He's like, they have to catch the first pitch. So that was special having him catch that as well, and kept it out of the dirt. It was just a fun experience for not just me, but like some of my best friends. My parents were there. It was a really, really special kind of, full circle moment to come back to Wrigley and get a chance to do that. And the reception from the fans was so amazing. I really got chills standing out there on the mound. And that's maybe my one regret is I didn't pitch at Wrigley.
Now you have.
I did everything.
Yeah.
So it was awesome.
You looked like you could strike out Yadier Molina.
One more time.
Looked like it could have happened one more time.
I still happen to be below the hitting speed. So, it's possible.
You're the best. Thanks again for your time.
Hey, thank you guys again. It's great to visit. I hope we can do it again.
Absolutely, man. And when you're in Chicago, for sure, let us know.
Awesome. Appreciate it, guys.
We all silly like the mayor.